Hello, and thanks for joining us. During our research of this riddle, we discovered that over the last 25 years, many have tried and have offered a number of different answers and a bunch of personal viewpoints on why their answer is correct. It's a tough one. In fact, our research revealed that the correct name of the riddle is indeed the I turned polar bear's white riddle, but some have recently nicknamed it the world's hardest riddle, which many of you already knew. In this video, we share with you hours of research, how we constructed the solution to the riddle, and show you why it's the correct solution. We're also going to reveal some hints that were there the whole time, but hang in there and try not to skip to the end, otherwise the solution won't make any sense. But trust me, the correct solution is really going to surprise you. Also, we'll include the links to the evidence we found in the description, so you can also see what we found. The riddle reads like this. Can you solve the riddle that 98% of Harvard students can't, but 83% of kindergartners guess the answer correctly? I turn polar bears white, and I will make you cry. I make guys have to pee, and girls comb their hair. I make celebrities look stupid, and normal people look like celebrities. I turn your pancakes brown, and I make your champagne bubble. If you squeeze me, I'll pop. If you look at me, you'll pop. Can you guess this riddle? First, let's consider 5 pieces of evidence we found that assisted us in solving the riddle. You might be surprised to discover that the riddle starts before the polar bear line. It was staring at you the whole time. You see, the riddle starts with the claim about the Harvard and kindergarten students. The concept that students can be overconfident and prone to place too much faith in their personal intellect comes from Daniel Kahneman's 2011 book, Thinking Fast and Slow. He explains that we have an intuitive mental system and a logical mental system, and we often use the wrong one at the wrong time. I'll put all the links in the description if you want to check out my source material. Now add to this that the start of the riddle immediately starts by chipping away at our confidence, because if we reason that most smart Harvard students can't answer it, then it must be really, really hard, right? But if kids can answer the riddle, then the answer must be really, really easy. Oh, good grief. Now we can't make up our minds which one of the extremes provides the correct mental system to use, and we start to argue with ourselves. We're overanalyzing it, or maybe being too easy and quick. And then we answer such as, no, I can't answer it. But then we remember that the riddle is nicknamed the hardest riddle in the world and was given to Harvard students. So it must have a hard answer. And our brain flips back and forth again and again, and our confidence lowers with each passing moment because we're not a Harvard student and won't be able to figure it out, right? But this is in fact our first clue. By starting the riddle with the claim about Harvard students and kindergartners, we are psychologically set up right from that start to focus on either a hard answer or an easy one, such as no. Clever indeed. So, if we really think outside the box, work through the riddle line by line, we will discover the correct answer. So join me on a little adventure as we sort out the clues and test a few reasoning points others have offered over the last 20 to 25 years or so. Second piece of evidence, no crafty riddler would give us a glaring hint, such as just think like a child and ignore the first 95% of the riddle and simply answer, no, I can't answer the riddle. In fact, I'm sure you've noticed how a number of these online brain teasers start with something like a billion Harvard, Cambridge, MIT, and Princeton students couldn't answer this, but a trillion ants could, or something along those lines. An example I found is a ball and bat riddle that was posted on December 16, 2012 in the journal, a simple logic question that most Harvard students get wrong. It said, Harvard students get near perfect SAT scores, and that's the U.S. college admission tests. These are smart kids, so they shouldn't have trouble with a simple logic question, right? Try the following puzzle. A bat and ball costs $1.10 US. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost? If you follow the link, which is in the description, you'll notice something interesting. Look down at the bottom of the picture of the baseball. No Harvard study or other testing event is referenced. But what is? A Flickr user named Sean Winters that goes by the name the Seanster93. Only the picture of the baseball is referenced. Not a single study or test is referenced throughout the entire article about where the author obtained the alleged data about the Harvard test scores, let alone kindergarten scores. So where did the data come from? Well, the bad ball brain teaser was probably posted by another online user in a different article. But here's the point. Test scores are completely private and confidential. Oh yeah, that's right. Of course, this doesn't mean these riddles didn't appear on an exam at one of the Ivy League colleges. It's just that no one would admit sharing it with us for fear of maybe being fired or kicked out of college, disciplined in some way. So we'll keep our mind open about the riddle's origin. It probably did show up on an Ivy League college test sometime in the past. Third piece of evidence. This riddle in various versions has been around before many TikTokers were born. And websites posting the riddle, asking readers, to answer it, we can trace those back more than 24 years. On the internet, the oldest forum I could find that posted the riddle in its current form was on November 30th of 1999, and it's been on forums and websites in the UK as well. So the riddle has circled the globe in books, blogs, forums, contests, and gaming communities for at least 24 to 25 years. Again, I'll post the links to those as well. The fourth piece of evidence is to conclude a kindergartner would answer no to just quickly answer the riddle because the riddle itself sounds very complicated or is too complicated is not what I found. A 5 to 6 year old would surprise you at how eager and adept they are at answering riddles and will most likely ask for hints. In fact, according to Kahneman's 2011 book, it is the adults who would give up quicker than the kindergartners. Thus, most Harvard students would most likely try several methods, such as logic, critical thinking, and abstract reasoning. The fifth evidence is, as mentioned earlier, a few TikTokers claim that the correct answer to the riddle is no, and they have convinced tens of thousands that it is no, as in no, I don't know the answer. However, when we research back more than 25 years ago, the riddle stops being answered simply as no, and other answers are emphatically given, such as heat, air, your mom, and so forth. So let's closely examine a few of the explanations for answering the riddle with no. The first is, I'm sorry to tell you all that the answer is no. It's hard because the overcomplication makes people not realize what the question is. The second one, a website dedicated to riddles states this: there is nothing that satisfies these requirements, so no, can't guess what it is. A third TikToker says, and no was the correct answer because that question has no correct answer except the answer no. As you can see, what many are using as the basis for the answer no is the use of the word guess in the riddle's last line, as in, can you guess this riddle? However, is this a Harvard level answer and thus an acceptable solution to this riddle? Well, let's consider a few thoughts. The argument that a kindergartner is guessing at the answer or flat out doesn't know the answer and therefore answers no, doesn't take into consideration that the reader of the riddle, no matter what their age, is going to read the beginning and immediately their brain will start considering multiple possible answers and then settle on an answer that they think is correct at the end. We all call that process guessing at the answer. To say a person is only answering the last question of the riddle doesn't make sense either, because they only know which guess was correct once the correct answer is revealed. Even if the riddle is on a formal test, the kindergartner and the Harvard student are going through the process of guessing at the answer, even if they only get one chance to guess. The application of what I'm talking about will be apparent here in just a minute. All right, let's first sort this all out and break it down, because there are a lot of conflicting thoughts on the solution to this riddle across multiple social media platforms, blogs, forums, websites, and over 25 plus years. So first, what is the question of the riddle? It's obvious, right? Can you guess the riddle? I did find one website that worded this question, can you solve the riddle? All right, second, what is a riddle? The Cambridge Online Dictionary states that it's, number one, a type of question that describes something in a difficult and confusing way and has a clever or funny answer, often asked as a game. And number two, something that is confusing or a problem that is difficult to solve. Number three, what is a question? The Cambridge Online Dictionary states, Number one, it's a sentence or phrase used to find out information. And number two, in an exam, a problem that tests a person's knowledge or ability. Let's apply all of the definitions to the riddle in a statement. This riddle is several sentences or phrases that test the person's knowledge or ability to solve or guess the answer to the riddle. Therefore, we can conclude that the last question isn't answered by itself, but is inclusive with the rest of the riddle. To state that the question has no correct answer except the answer no defeats the purpose and definition of a riddle. If we reread the definition of riddle, then the last question is asking the person to read the first phrases that describe something in a difficult or confusing way, and is confusing or difficult to solve, and has a clever or funny answer. It's now up to us, without any additional clues, to figure it out. The answer no is neither funny or clever, and it solves or answers, well, nothing. However, to insist that the answer is simply no does create a lot of confusion, that's for sure. Again, let's say that the correct answer to the riddle is no, as in no, I can't guess the riddle. All riddles, by definition and design, have a means to solve them and have a meaningful answer that inspires either awe, creates laughter, as in a game, or exercises our ability to think outside the box. Otherwise, they're not riddles, are they? They're just perhaps a paradox or a meaningless conundrum that leaves the reader scratching their head, as the answer no honestly does. In addition, to insist the answer is no creates a paradox. Well, how? Let's reason it through step by step. If the answer to the riddle is indeed no, and if a kindergartner correctly guesses that no is the answer, then the logical answer to the riddle should be yes, because the kindergartner was able to guess no as the answer to the last question, a paradox. But if the kindergartner answers yes, they can solve it, people are saying it's wrong because the correct answer is no, a paradox again. So the only way to avoid a paradox is to say that no is not the answer to the whole riddle, just the last question. Well, that forces us to conclude that all of those kindergarten students didn't answer the riddle either. They just guessed or only answered the last question at the end because they had no idea how to solve the first part. But writing the answer no, and is the right answer, means they could answer the question, and round we go in paradoxes. I think we all agree that creating paradoxes is not the desired purpose of a riddle. Based on everything we've covered, there is in fact a correct answer that solves the riddle. Thus, it is now time to unlock your brain. What is the right answer? Well, here are a few hints. Hint number one is, do we know where or how the riddle was invented? Maybe. It may have originated in the United Kingdom, as we found, and we'll leave a link in the description. And maybe it was derived from a children's book of poems regarding time, as one user put in a forum. However, at the making of this video, its exact origin and author are truly unknown. I can only trace the attempts to solve it as far back as November of 1999, and a few hints of it further back in time. Over the last 25 years, many have simply given up, assumed there was no answer that fits all of the criteria described in the riddle. Thus answer, no, I can't answer the riddle. But there is an answer, and it's been there the whole time. At this point, do you know the answer? Well, let's look at the second hint. First, the answer cannot be one word, such as yes or no, as we established earlier. But second, there are no rules that state the answer has to be one word. The answer could be 3 words, or even a sentence. Remember that the riddle, or some form of it, most likely showed up on a college test question, and thus probably requires a college-level solving technique and answer. Alright, let's solve it together. The answer was right there. Here's the riddle. Can you solve the riddle that 98% of Harvard students can't, but 83% of kindergartners guess the answer correctly? I turn polar bears white, and I will make you cry. I make guys have to pee, and girls comb their hair. I make celebrities look stupid, and normal people look like celebrities. I turn your pancakes brown, and I make your champagne bubble. If you squeeze me, I'll pop. If you look at me, you'll pop. Can you guess this riddle? Notice a little detail we picked out. It's the use of and between the phrases, and they get harder as they go down the riddle. These are clues that indicate that the answer applies to both descriptions. For example, what turns polar bears white and will make you cry is the same word or answer from the same source. So, have you figured out the answer yet? No? Alright, let's solve it together. I turn polar bears white and will make you cry. The answer? Heat. On the website, asknature.org, it educates us on just how polar bear fur works and why it is so efficient at preserving heat and turns polar bears white. And the link, of course, will be in the description. It says when sunlight hits the hair, the outside reflects a small amount back into the environment, giving the bear a bright white appearance. Most of the light, however, travels through the translucent sheath where it hits and is reflected by the core. Depending upon the angle at which the light hits the core, it bounces around within the hair or it bounces out to another hair where the process is repeated. Some of the light energy transforms into heat in the process. Some of it bounces deeper and deeper into the bear's coat until it finally is absorbed by the bear's black skin, which re-radiates it as heat. The tightly packed inner fur holds the heat close to the animal, helping to keep it warm. We're going to choose the answer as heat, and of course heat will make you cry when it burns you. Next, I make guys have to pee and girls comb their hair. We can see from this phrase, students were definitely in mind when they put that phrase in the riddle. The answer? Water. Water causes the guys to pee and causes the girls to comb their hair. There are multiple times during the day when these events occur, especially among college students, even kindergartners for that matter. Do you see where I'm going with this? And they're getting progressively harder and more abstract, especially the last one, as we go down the list. So let's continue. I make celebrities look stupid and normal people look like celebrities. The answer? Time. We've seen how plastic surgery performed on aging celebrities makes them look stupid. And of course, time is not their friend at all. But time can cause normal people to look like celebrities. For example, you remember that ugly duckling in school that turned into a swan as an adult? Or that ugly kid that turned into a handsome man? Yes, it's time. Next clue, I turn your pancakes brown and I make your champagne bubble. Carbon dioxide gas is one ingredient that forms the little bubbles in the batter. And with the addition of heat, the chemical reaction turns pancakes brown, called the Maillard reaction. Interesting. Also, when the cork is popped, carbon dioxide gas is released from the champagne. So our answer for this one is carbon dioxide gas. The next clue is, if you squeeze me, I'll pop. If you look at me, you'll pop. Notice that there isn't an and between the two phrases, as I mentioned earlier. This lets us know that something is different about this one, and we should just be extra careful. As we thought about it, we discovered that the word is the same, but in different forms. So the answer is pressure, but the first form of it is squeezing a balloon or anything under pressure will make it pop. But if you look at me, you'll pop is the next clue. So I had to think about this one for some time. How do you look at pressure? A pressure measuring device, such as pressure gauge, in a pressurized place, such as an airplane, submarine, or a ski lift. And of course, that's when your ears will pop. But you can also look at pressure on a gauge, say in a boiler. Remember, this riddle's clue was that it was probably a college-level test question. Now ask yourself, what would a college-level student be tested on using this riddle and all the words heat, water, time, gas, and pressure as answers? The first law of thermodynamics states that energy cannot be created or destroyed, so that's not really it. But I'll give you a little hint. Which law of chemistry applies to all 5 words? If you don't want to know the answer yet, pause the video here. Okay, if you have continued, then we're going to give you the answer. If you answered the ideal gas law, you're right. The ideal gas law makes use of heat, water, time, gas, and pressure and is widely used today. In fact, to see a simulation of this law, go to the University of Texas link in the description. And there you have it, folks. That's how you solve the world's hardest riddle. Please like or follow or share as we have a new show coming in January entitled Vintage Violins that we think you'll really enjoy. So thank you for coming. We hope to see you soon.